Hi everyone, Marisa Stone here with Simon Says Social and the Systems Lounge, and I want to welcome you today to the 2018 Premier International Women's Business Systems Virtual Summit, where you get to learn all about the systems that our speakers are using to get things done. And today I am super stoked to have Christina Nicholson here. She is going to be talking with us all about how to boost your authority and skyrocket your visibility. Now, for those of you that have really been struggling with this is your go-to conversation, so stick around. But before we get into it, let me tell you a little bit about Christina. So Christina Nicholson is a former TV reporter and anchor who worked in markets from New York City to Miami. She's still telling stories today, however, but instead of doing it for a major newscast, she is instead doing it to help small businesses grow. And with her business, The Media Maven, which I love, she helps entrepreneurs reach thousands, even millions of their ideal customers or clients in, get this, minutes instead of months, through the power of media, traditional and new media, without spending all those big bucks on advertising. You can still see her in front of the camera as a host on Lifetime TV, in national commercials, and on WPTV for her monthly segment, Steals and Deals. Christina has also got a local lifestyle and a family blog called Christina All Day. She lives in South Florida with her husband and her 2 young children. Christina, I'm so excited to have you on the summit. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Marissa. I'm excited to talk to you.
Yay! So let's just begin at the beginning with this conversation. What does it mean to boost our authority through increasing our visibility?
Okay, so the biggest thing is people do business with people. They don't do business with businesses. So it's really important that you as a person are known, liked, and trusted. If you're not, people aren't going to do business with you. So when you are seen as an authority figure, you are known, liked, and trusted. And you have to be seen, and that's where earning that visibility comes into play. People can't do business with you if they don't know who you are. And then after they find out who you are, you have to have some kind of authority. You have to be seen as an expert in your industry to get that business, because that's what's going to set you apart from your competition.
And I think that that's super important and leads us into my next question, which is, why should entrepreneurs be concerned with this? For a lot of us who are on this summit, we're a one-woman show. So why is this something I really need to be thinking about?
Well, Oprah is also a one-woman show. And
that is true.
Look at what she's been able to do. I mean, you really, no matter what you do, whether you sell a service or you sell a product, whether you're online or you have a brick and mortar, you should always be branding yourself. I mean, I even think it's important that if you're not an entrepreneur, maybe you're thinking about getting into it and you have a job, you should be branding yourself. I mean, that's what LinkedIn is for.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I was looking for jobs, I would get on LinkedIn and I would promote myself as an expert in my industry to get another job. Yeah. And then, years down the road, it's like, oh, I can do this for myself as a business owner. Yeah. So it's super important, whether you're a one-woman show or you have a team of people, you need to be seen as the expert in what you do, and you need to brand yourself as that go-to person.
Yeah. And I love that you broke it down like that, because this isn't just for the big dogs who have the big marketing budgets. This is for every single person who is an expert in their field and wants to get that information out there. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah. And the greatest part about earning media is you don't need to be a big brand. You can do it on your own because you don't need money to do it. You just need to know what to do. And I also think it's easier if you are smaller, because when you do work with those bigger brands, they have a legal team and they get really uptight and nervous about everything you put out there and how it's worded. And you can never do things like on the fly and try it out and experiment, because they want everything to be perfect before it's executed. So it's really easier if you're smaller. You don't need the money. You just need to know what to do. And you don't need to ask anybody permission about doing anything. You just do it to see what works and what doesn't. And then you tweak or you pivot.
Yeah. And I love that too. That's one of the reasons I got out of big, corporations, is because I was tired of the reins that they put on everything. So part of boosting our authority is knowing what we want to be known for. How do we figure that out? How do we figure out, okay, I want to be the business systems summit guru? Like, how do we know?
Okay, well, I think the first step for anybody is to focus on your goal. What is your goal? Is it to build your email list? If it is, then you want to focus online. If you have a brick and mortar and you want to get people walking in your store, then you're going to focus locally where your store is. So the first step is, what is your goal? Do you want to sell this? Do you want more people to see this? Do you want people to click here or click there? So once you've determined what your end goal is, ask yourself, who is going to help me achieve this goal? Who is my audience? And that's where you want to get in front of. So while it may be awesome for you to get something on the Today Show, and that will help you, but maybe being on a virtual summit will help you better if you're trying to build your email list. Because people watching the Today Show, those are usually moms, those are women watching that, not necessarily business owners, just random women, right? Like it's not too niche. But if you're on an online summit just for business owners, you're probably going to grow your email list better than you would on the Today Show. So don't get distracted by what sounds cool and what sounds fancy. While it will help you in the long run, you should really focus, especially starting out, on that specific goal of where you want to be. Because if you get in front of the wrong audience, it'll look cool. You can get that logo, put it on your marketing materials. It will increase your credibility, but it will take a longer time to achieve your goal.
Right. And that totally makes sense for sure. Okay, so I get it. I need to boost my authority through some sort of media, but oh my gosh, paying someone to earn brand publicity can get really expensive. Are there any alternatives?
It is, yeah. And I'll tell you why it's so expensive, because it's not easy to do. Yeah. You can spend money on advertising. Advertising is not cheap either. That's extremely expensive. It's more expensive than hiring a PR firm, but that's because it's guaranteed. You spend the money, you tell them what you want the ad to look like, and it's done. Yeah. But people don't like being advertised to. Ads just don't work anymore. Yeah. Facebook even stopped showing them to you. Unless you pay them, they're not going to show you them. They just don't work anymore. Yeah. So you need to earn the media. And it's called earning because it actually takes effort. So I know when I was a TV reporter, people were pitching me all day, every day. I would get hundreds of emails in my inbox every day of people who wanted to be on TV. And most of the time, they didn't have a story. Like, they just wanted a free commercial. Like, you're not going to get on TV if you don't have a story. You just want a free commercial. It doesn't work like that. But a lot of people, they don't get it. Yeah. So you can do it yourself. You don't have to pay a PR agency thousands of dollars a month and a retainer to try to do it for you. You can do it yourself. You just need to make the time to do it. I mean, as business owners, we know to make our businesses grow, we need to do two things: spend time and spend money. If you don't have money, then you got to spend more time. If you don't have time, then you got to spend more money. So we're talking about not having money for a PR agency. So you have to make the time. You have to block out time to learn what you need to do and then execute what you've learned.
Yeah, totally agree with that for sure. So one of the things that you work with your clients on is actually finding, you mentioned before, you're not going to get on television without a story. And you work with your clients on finding their story so they can set themselves apart in the media. So what all does that involve?
Okay, so I'll go back to what I was saying. Like, people would send me pitches and I would have, like, what is the story here?
What are we doing with this?
Yeah. So finding your story means you have to be newsworthy. And I say newsworthy is like having the 3 E's. You need to educate whoever's watching or listening or reading, entertain them, and you also have to do it with some kind of emotion, because that's the big part that pulls it all together. And that's the part that it's the hardest to find. And it's also what a lot of people leave out, because people, they want to be too promotional. You promoting yourself and telling me all about why you or your business or your product or your service is great, that's not newsworthy. Right. Unless you're Mark Zuckerberg, nobody is going to care. Right. So you have to make yourself newsworthy. So you can do this in a few different ways. The easiest way, people call it newsjacking, where you see something maybe happening nationally or locally, if your target audience is local, and you jump on it and you find a way to make it relative to you and what you do. So I'll give you an example. A few years ago when I was working at the NBC station in Miami, that was when the guy from Glee overdosed on heroin and died.
Right.
And that's a big national story. Everybody's covering it. And I'm not sure who set this up. I'm not sure if this man, he was a doctor, some kind of addiction specialist. And I don't know if he pitched himself or if we found him maybe in a Google search. That's why your SEO should be good, because when people want you, you got to show up.
Yeah.
But he gave me some quotes. He came in for an interview and we got him on TV in the 16th biggest market in the country, talking about his expertise because it tied into something that everybody was already talking about. So that's one way to do it. What is everybody talking about? What's trending in the news in your industry? If it's your industry, you're probably staying up to date on it. You should be getting Google alerts or, reading something every day. What are people talking about as it relates to what I do? And then you reach out to journalists who would cover that topic and you just say, hey, if you're covering this, I'm here. I can help you out with it.
Yeah.
That's one way you could do it. And then another way is capitalizing on those holidays.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have had a restaurant client do a cooking segment on TV for National Margarita Day or National Tequila Day. It's a Mexican restaurant, so they're cooking up margaritas or fixing up margaritas on TV.
Right.
For Mother's Day, I'll use a Mother's Day example because that's coming up in a couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a female business owner and you have kids,
mm-hmm.
find some way to spin that as a Mother's Day story.
Yeah.
There's just all kinds of ways you can make a story timely.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't make it timely, then you're going to get put on the back burner because the media needs a reason to do this right now because they have so many other things
mm-hmm.
that they could do. So if you don't give them a reason to do it right now, then you're going to be forgotten about.
Yeah. And that makes so much sense. And I love that you broke it down like that. But let's apply this to me for a minute. How do I know if my story is newsworthy enough?
Well, it depends on what your story is because you're always going to have a different story. You're always going to be switching it up because you can't pitch the same thing to the same person over and over again.
Right.
Yeah. So you're always going to switch it up. So it just depends. It just depends on what you have going on, what you want to share with people. I mean, you talk about a lot of systems and growing your business. So for you, your audience are people who read Inc. magazine or Entrepreneur,
right.
or they listen to Pat Flynn's Smart Passive Income.
Right.
So I would suggest you obviously have the expertise, so you can educate your audience.
Yeah.
And then you're very likable and conversational, so you're going to be entertaining, but you want to bring in the emotional part into it. So it just depends on what's happening in your business, in your life, and how you could bring in that emotional story. I work with a hospital and with doctors, and they always give me great stories, and I'm like, unless you give me a patient, I can't do the story.
Right.
Because a health story with just a doctor is boring.
Right.
If you bring in a patient, especially a young patient, like a child, that's what makes it emotional. And that is what makes people want to watch it or read it.
Yeah.
So give me some examples of what's going on in your business.
Well, this is one of the things that I actually started doing this year for this year's summit. I started releasing my story, and this is not something that I've shared before. And so it's a very interesting evolution in my own business and in my own little world, little corner of the internet. But I was very, very abused as a child, and I grew up in grotesque poverty. And by the time I was 23, I was in a failing abusive marriage with 3 children and no skills, and immediately realized that I had to put together systems that were going to help me get to school in the evening so I could take care of my kids, get that job that I needed, go after those higher level degrees so I could share with my audience the stories, the education that they needed in order for me to accomplish my goals. And I realized that it's been systems all along for me. And no wonder I'm doing a Biz Systems Summit, because I know the power of systems. I've lived it. I've breathed it. I've figured out that if you don't have systems, you can't accomplish your goals. And so this is, for the first time this year, I'm starting to share that story. And I can totally see how that resonates with a lot of my viewers, simply because I mean, I can't even tell you how many women reach out to me and they're like, okay, well, I'm going through a divorce and I'm struggling to do this and I'm struggling to do that. And I'm like, you can do this. You know, you got this. I can help, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's a big kind of emotional component for the summit this year that's never been part of it before, you know?
But like you said, that draws people in because people see, you know, the emotional side and the human side.
Yeah.
And putting a news spin on it to try to get coverage, you could jump on the Me Too movement. That's not going anywhere anytime soon. You could jump on the Me Too movement. Depending on what city you live in, there's going to be, you know, a local market, whether it be small or large. Obviously, large markets are great because you reach more people because they're large. But small markets are also great because there's less competition, so you have a better chance of earning coverage in a smaller market.
Good to know.
And those big markets, you know, they also have little smaller things going on. Like we have a big newspaper here, but that newspaper also has little community newspapers for all the suburbs, you know, around the big city.
Right.
But you could have jumped on the Me Too movement, Mother's Day, going back to Mother's Day. You're a mother and you're a business owner. So you could jump on that. And then also like those silly little holidays. Like I'm sure there's, you know, like a national Women's Business Owner Day, or, you know, there's a day for freaking everything. So I'm sure there's, you know, you got to look up those days and jump on those and just use that day as a pitch. You know, you're obviously also very motivational. So you could see what kind of events or activities are happening where you live and see if you could also get some kind of speaking opportunity there. You know, it's not just media, but also speaking, because there could be media covering some kind of event where you could be speaking at as well. And there's so much overlap too. There's so much gray area in the media because it's like you have the traditional media, which I don't want to say it's dying, but it's definitely changing because of social media.
That's right.
And then you have the influencers, which sometimes are not really influencers, but they call themselves that because they want to be that. And they do little things to make them look like they're influencers, but they're not. And then sometimes they'll charge you, but then that's not earned media, that's paid media, and it's advertising. So there's like just so much crazy overlapping that, you know, you may start out like traditional media and then it'll take you like to something else, but then it'll redirect over here. And that's why I mentioned SEO earlier, because it all ties in. Like I know as a journalist, if I needed to talk to somebody, especially in TV, like your deadlines are like this. If somebody calls you, you need to be ready. I have a girl in one of my masterminds. She got a call at 7:15 this morning to be TV ready for an interview at 9:00. And she did it. Like she wanted it. She showed up and she did it and she got all of that exposure. So you definitely have to be willing to hustle and maybe be flexible just because the media is changing so quickly. But it is still the fastest way to reach the most amount of people, and you don't need to spend money to do it.
Yeah, totally sounds like that's something that's doable for most of us, and we just didn't realize it yet. So
Exactly.
that my story delivers what you call brand positivity. Like, how do I make sure that I'm actually sharing something that is positive for my brand?
Well, I think your story is, it has a lot of emotion to it, but you have, you know, like the happy ending. Like, look, if I can go through all of this and now I have this, then you can too. And I can help you do it. You know, like you do have a great story like that. And people like to hear those stories because when you hear a story where it's like, oh, this person built a business, but he got a loan from his dad and he grew up like this. And it's like, oh, well, he had all of those perks, you know, like he was set up for success already. So hearing your story, it is a positive story because you do have a happy ending and because, you know, you're getting out there and sharing it with people. And then you also are in control of what you say yes to and what you say no to, you know, if it's earned media. So you kind of guide the conversation, and you could have some media training where it's like, well, what if somebody asks a question and you don't really know how to answer it, or you want to really talk about this, you don't want to talk about this. It's like they ask you the question, you answer it, and then you segue into what you want to discuss. So maybe they're harping on abuse when you were younger, and you say, oh yeah, this happened and blah, blah, blah. And because of that, like you'll have those key transition words. And because of that, and then you go into what you want to say to grow your business and what you want to say to get people to really know you, like you, and trust you.
Yeah, that makes so much sense for sure. Okay, so how is all of this idea of earned media and me putting myself out there different from just creating like a press release and sending it out? I mean, I've written those before and they're boring.
That's the problem. That's exactly it. So like I mentioned, if you saw the inbox of a journalist, whether they work freelance, full-time, part-time, you would die. Like there are hundreds of emails in there every day. The last thing somebody wants to do is read a press release this long. That's probably super promotional. It's all about you and it doesn't have a story.
Right.
So I suggest just writing a short pitch and sending it. I actually have a coaching client today who wanted to see the pitch that I sent to Pat Flynn to get on Smart Passive Income. Mm-hmm. And I did not realize how short it was until I went and found it from over a year ago. Yep. It's literally 2 sentences long. And then my follow-up was 3 weeks later, and the follow-up was 1 sentence.
Wow.
Don't waste time writing a press release. They're not necessary. I've had clients on the Today Show, on the Rachel Ray Show, Washington Post, not with press releases, just short and sweet. Hey, you may be interested in this. This is why. And then you also want to tell them you're going to give them everything on a silver platter.
Right.
You don't need to write anything. I'll set you up. I have this. I have this. Like it's all done for you because they're very overworked and underpaid.
Yeah.
So you want to give them everything they need and you just want to make their life easier. Like your job, I say that it sounds crazy, but I say like my job as a publicist and your job as a publicist, because you're going to treat yourself like you are a client, like you're a publicist and you're a client. It's not to earn your self-exposure. It's to help the journalists do their job.
Yeah.
They have a story to tell. They need to create something for their audience. It's not their job to promote you. They don't care about promoting you. That's not their job.
Right.
So you help them do their job. And if it includes you and telling everybody who you are and what you do, then good for you.
Yep.
But when you pitch yourself and you're just shoving yourself down this journalist's throat, it's not going to work. And it'll work against you. Then, when you do have a really cool story or you do have something that is legitimate, they're going to be like, oh, nope, like this person, they just want airtime type of a thing.
Right.
So you really want to just be helpful to the journalist.
Yeah. And that makes so much sense for sure. Wow. You have shared so much amazing information. And unfortunately, we're coming to the end of this interview. But before we let you go, how can people reach out to you? Let's say they want to pick your brain about really boosting their authority and skyrocketing their visibility. They want to access some of your resources or perhaps even work with you. How can they reach out to you?
Yeah, I would love for people to get in touch with me on my website. It's MediaMavenandMore.com. And I do want to give everybody who's watching my ebook for free. And it includes a lot of what we talked about, but in even more detail. So you can, pitch the media and earn coverage. And so you can get that at MediaMavenandMore.com/standout. I'm also very active on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. So make sure you follow me there. And I'm more than happy to help because, again, like I said, anybody can do this. You don't need money. You just need to know what to do.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much, Christina, for all you've shared here today. Guys, definitely click on the links below and take advantage of some of the resources that Christina is sharing with you so that you can make sure that you're boosting your authority and skyrocketing your visibility so you can continue to serve your tribe and up-level your business. Now, for those of you who are still struggling with this idea, you're really on the cusp of getting that visibility out there and making things happen for yourself, you're going to want to stick around and check out Christina's advanced session. But in order to access that, you're gonna have to snag your all access pass. Now there's also a button below this video that will take you straight over to that page to grab yours right now. And the reason you wanna do that is because not only are you getting lifetime access to all of the live sessions that you're watching right now, but you also get every single one of those deeper dives that I'm taking with every single speaker. And I guarantee you, you do not wanna miss that one. Christina, thank you so much for being here. I've had a fabulous time talking to you.
Thank you so much, and I love your hat. You're adorable.
Oh, thank you. And guys, we will see you inside the All Access Pass. Bye, everyone.